Okay, everyone, Thursday the 28th of March, and we're back with the Celtic Way morning briefing. Ryan is here, and we missed out on Kevin earlier in the week, but don't worry about that. Fans of Kevin, he's back now. How are things, Kevin? You still get that old wonderful hoodie on as well, I see?
Yeah, I have actually washed it.
I was going to ask, have you had it off since 8 days ago?
Yeah, I'm just building up a wee collection because my kids got me a pair of Adidas Gazelles, the white ones. I'd wanted the black ones that did last year, but they were flying off the shelf within hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just going back to my youth. It's probably a late midlife crisis. Who cares?
Yes, who cares indeed. Right, first of all, big thanks to MPH Boilers for sponsoring today's video. They've recently become proud Celtic community partners. They are bringing you a special home cover plan offer at the moment. You get 6 months for 99 pence per month. This includes everything from annual boiler, service to full heating system, plumbing and gas supply pipe coverage. After the first 6 months, the plan upgrades to just £25 a month for the remaining 6 months. That ensures your home is always in top condition all year round. If you're interested, you know what to do. Message MPH Boilers Facebook page and quote MPH Celtic, or call them on 0800 779 7778 and again quote MPH Celtic. Yeah, it's a fantastic way to support your home this year, and a big thanks to them for supporting the show and being a Celtic community partner. Ryan?
Yep. As always, we're talking about our best ever deal on the Celtic Way website. 6 months of access that'll keep you going until the end of September for just £1. And not only that, you'll also be getting a free Kyogo Furuhashi print from renowned football artist made by Frankie. The link is www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. On the website this morning, we have a piece by Alan Morrison that looks into Matt O'Reilly and whether or not he is off form at this moment in time. It's a really good read, really insightful read.
Is he off form?
I can't give too much away. I don't want to spoil the article, but it's an insightful article that made me think differently about the player and maybe what we expect from the player. I think it's due to his placing in the team is maybe the reason why people are a bit disappointed at the moment with his output. But that's on the website, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. £1 for 6 months. And I thank everybody for getting involved. We really couldn't do it without you guys. We really do appreciate it.
We do indeed. Right, okay, big day has arrived. I was saying to you guys, I'm strangely nervous. It's like an actual match happening today. It's the day when Brendan Rodgers and Celtic find out if he'll face any punishment, what punishment it could be for his comments after the defeat we had to Hearts about 4 weeks ago. I just want to say I've been looking into this a hell of a lot over the last 24, 48 hours. So if you have any questions, anyone at home, fire them in and we'll do our best to answer them. Kevin, have you been following this story much? What way do you think this is going to go today?
Well, I don't think Celtic would be hiring, a top advocate if they didn't think that there was maybe a bigger issue. Celtic only bring out the legal big guns when they feel that there's a larger point to be made. If this was simply, Brendan Rodgers in the heat of the moment slagging off the referee, using injudicious language, Rodgers himself nor Celtic, would probably have opposed it. These things happen, take their punishment. It happens a lot with other managers, players, etc. But there's the first precedent for this probably in recent times was when there was the touchline spat between Neil Lennon and Ali McCoist all those years ago. What was it, 2011, 2012? And Neil Lennon was originally hit, I think, with a 12-match ban. And Celtic hired Paul McBride, the late Paul McBride, God rest him, who's one of the best in the business. And he, by all reports, what I was told, he ran rings around the football authorities. Lennon's ban was reduced. The original, the sense of injustice that Celtic had felt on behalf of Neil Lennon was that he had got a far heavier sentence than Ali McCoist, and this seemed to be based purely on the evidence of Sky footage, which only, and then this wasn't anything to do with Sky, it was just as it unfolded in their camera angle, which only showed Neil's, angry face. And when Neil gets a bit angry, he gets angry, his face, and you didn't really see Ali McCoy's face. So Celtic were making a bigger point there about processes, about the one-sided nature of punishment, of justice being seen to be done. So they obviously feel there's a larger issue here, and that's why they've hired one of the top legal representatives in the country.
Yeah, as you say, Paul McBride, QC, I think was Celtic's go-to guy at that stage. Very, very sadly, he's no longer around at the moment, and it seems like Nick DiMarzo, who's the guy you referenced a few minutes ago, Nick DiMarco, as the guy that Celtic go to now. He's worked on a lot of high profile cases. Just a couple of examples: Leicester City's ongoing financial fair play dispute, Nottingham Forest's fight with the Premier League about a points deduction at the moment, and Newcastle United's Saudi-backed takeover. So this guy's a big deal. He's also worked with Celtic in the past. You guys may remember Scott Brown was cited by the SFA for failing to act in the best interest of Scottish football. That was after he celebrated, quite funnily may I add, right in front of the Rangers fans after we beat them in, I think, March 2019. Now, I think Brown was expected to get a ban for that, and DiMarco got him off, basically. And I was looking back at reports from the time, and they were said to have, Celtic were said to have fought the case on the grounds that the SFA were guilty of double standards. They even brought up a case of Josh Windass given a kind of rude gesture to Partick Thistle fans. So double standards was kind of the makeup of the defence there. I wonder if we'll see something similar today, Ryan, and I wonder if DiMarco and Celtic will be looking at other cases recently, not even recently, maybe in recent years, when managers have said similar things to Rodgers and got away with it. One thing's for sure, the guy seems very, highly regarded.
Yeah, I know he's been heavily employed recently. I think he's representing Leicester with their current predicament that they're in with the EFL. That story seems to be going on and on. It will continue to go on for the next couple of months, I would imagine. So he's clearly a very respected lawyer in defence. In the defence, it's not my area of expertise. I won't pretend that I know a lot about the systems or about the legal action. But I do know that if Celtic have a case to answer for, then this guy's going to take it, going to back it to the hilt. It's going to be very, very interesting, especially with that double standards that you were talking about. Are they going to be talking about other managers' comments that maybe haven't been cited? Try and use that as a sort of example. I don't know if they'll even bring VAR into it and look at other decisions that weren't given, double standards in that regard. Either way, I'm sure that it'll be ready and Celtic will have presented a case. I just think that it might be to the detriment of the SFA that they've allowed. I know it's the standard procedure, but allowing that 25-day period will have allowed Celtic to compile a pretty strong argument, I would believe. So, they'll be in a great place. They'll be well prepared and they'll be willing to fight. If Rodgers manages to get away with a suspended sentence or a heavy fine, then I just think it will automatically be advantage Celtic in the next couple of games. I think it'll be like an adrenaline hit, a shot in the arm. If that, just due to the way that things are transpiring at the moment, you've got players coming back from injury. If Rodgers manages to get not away with it, but manages to successfully defend his case and is there at Ibrox and at Livingston as well, to be fair, then I just think it'd be advantage Celtic, and it's the first sort of going in the right direction all of a sudden. I just hope that today goes well for Brendan Rodgers and he's going to be in place where he should be.
I'm kind of less, I suppose, maybe I'm less maybe with the march of time, I get less easily invested emotionally in these kind of off the field battles. I don't really think it will make any difference. I think if Rodgers may well still get some kind of sanction, which leaves the way open for Celtic to have a stinging rebuke if they wanted to, based on the evidence that they led, and it may very well, and I tend to kind of agree with your analysis, it may very well come down to consistency and how certain other clubs and personnel have targeted certain officials in certain games. Well, I wonder, if the Green Brigade will be will put up a Celtic end outside the offices of the SFA and gather to chant on Brendan and give him the backing, against the fell and baleful representatives of Scottish football. It'd be good. Yeah, it'd be good if he wins. I'm not sure that will have a massive impact. I'm much more invested in getting Hatate, Carter Vickers, and Callum McGregor onto that field as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we can maybe come back in a minute and chat about whether we think it matters to have Brendan Rodgers on the touchline or not. Just a few comments we had in.
Point.
Yeah, we'll come back to Stephen saying, morning boys, I honestly can't see Brendan getting off with it unless he's got them banged to rights in some other issue. Ian wondering what time Brendan is meeting the SFA. I believe the report we've had is early afternoon, so put your time on that. 1 p.m. maybe that would kind of be early afternoon, but I guess 2 would be as well. It has to be between 9 and 5. Apart from extraordinary cases, that's when these SFA things take place. So I reckon the reports Ian are saying early afternoon. That's when it will start, certainly. Robert wondering if Brendan can appeal the decision today if it doesn't go in his favour. Now, I've not actually been able to get full clarification in this, but I looked at like 5 or 6 recent examples of this charge being brought against managers and players, and there wasn't one mention of an appeal in any of them. So I'm guessing this isn't a thing you can appeal. I guess you can always appeal to some extent, all the way up to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, but I doubt something like that's going to come up today. Alan wondering why I've not got a hoodie on. It's called living in Melbourne. These two guys live in freezing cold part of the world. David saying Celtic need to make a stand today. The time for silence is over. The bias is getting too much and change is needed. And Robert wondering, do we think Celtic will get the chance to show their dossier today, or will the governing body restrict matters to what Brendan said? Again, I'm not 100% sure exactly how it goes. What do you think then, Kevin? Does it make a difference if Brendan Rodgers is in the dugout for this weekend, or even for Ibrox if he's not there?
Actually, I mean that's a really good point. And yeah, maybe what I'd said a few minutes ago didn't take cognizance of this. People like me, or anyone who hasn't actually played professional football or football at a kind of anyway decent level, can sometimes look and say, well, who cares if the manager's in the dugout or in the stand, or whether he's in the dressing room before the game, because all the preparation surely gets done, especially before important games, before it. However, you don't know what the dynamics are between the manager and his players. These are highly tuned athletes, where psychology is as important as as the physical fitness part of their preparation. And they don't like things to be out of place. They don't like little kind of tears in the fabric of their preparations before these games. And from what I can gather and what little we know, what we hear from players who played with Brendan, he's got quite a forceful. He's got forceful views on the psychology of the game. He seems to be very, very good man player manager. He kind of focuses on the players as individuals. He seems to be aware of the little nooks and crannies of their psychology. So his presence in the dugout, in the dressing room, before, during, after the game, is probably quite crucial. Others who played professional football might disagree, or that's maybe, there might be other managers who say that that's kind of overrated because all the preparation does mainly happen before the game. So good point.
I'm just looking it up now because when you're talking there, I'm trying to find the rules regarding it if he does miss the game. I'm sure, here we go. So he'd be allowed to chat to the players up until 15 minutes before kick-off. So he could still be in the dressing room up until 15 minutes before kick-off, and then 15 minutes after full time he could be back in. So it's not as if he's like banned for the full day from the dressing room. He's just not on the touchline.
Yeah.
Ryan. But I mean, it could also, I think someone pointed out earlier in the week, it could also work in, and obviously we're talking about something that hasn't happened yet, and we hope it's not the case, but it could also work in the players' favour in terms of almost geeing them up a bit more. And we've already been to Ibrox this season, backs against the wall, seemingly everything against us, and beating that lot. So I mean, the team have the character.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's the character that Brendan Rodgers will be trying to install in his players over the next couple of weeks before that game arrives. I know it's next Sunday, so it's catching up with us very, very quickly. But they'll have done all the hard work on the training ground in pre-match, so it's not as if anything's going to change by Brendan Rodgers not being on the touchline. It's just that extra security, having him on that touchline in that technical area, barking out orders. But John Kennedy stepped up into that position before. He's no stranger to stepping up when required, and he's a good coach by all accounts. You don't stay at Celtic for that amount of time without having something about you. There's a reason why he's been there that long. So, if he is banned, then that's the worst case scenario. But it's something that you'd expect the players to be professional enough to do their job without their manager present. That's just that's having trust in the players. And John Kennedy to really, I think they've got a phone as well that he could be putting down orders to John Kennedy if something happens in the game. We've seen that happen in the Premier League before. It becomes a bit of a sideshow, in all honesty. But it's worst case scenario if you can't be on the technical area for this big game. But I don't expect it to affect Celtic that much, or it shouldn't affect Celtic that much. At the end of the day, the Celtic players have a job on their hands. They've got to go to Ibrox and they've got to get a result and make sure that the title is heading back to Celtic Park. And in order to do that, they just have to do what they have been doing recently in playing better football. Obviously, the Livingston game is first, but it seems like a lot of eyes are already on that game, which can be dangerous considering you can slip up at any point, especially given the plastic pitch at the weekend. But there seems to be a lot of eyes already on that derby. It feels closer now. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like it's getting closer and closer. I know it is in terms of time, but even just in the psyche, it seems as if it's getting really, really close, and it's a pressure game, and I'm looking forward to it, to be honest.
Do we see Don Robertson as a referee on Sunday? Thomas pointing that out. What do we make of that, Kevin? That's an interesting one, given that he's the one that's kind of alongside John Beaton at the centre of this storm at the moment.
Well, look, you could put any one of a handful of characters of referees in charge of Celtic games, and you might you could have questions about them with regard to decisions that they've been party to, both in games and in the bar studio. The SFA, I suppose, from their perspective, they can't. We're asking for natural justice to take its course as we are. They can't be seen to be allowing this case because it hasn't, obviously hadn't been heard before they have to appoint these officials. natural justice suggests that they can't allow the merits or otherwise of this case to impact on the natural course of appointing referees. And as I said, we would probably have problems with 4 or 5 referees based on their records going back a few years, and we've all got our favourite top 5 VAR incidents that worked against us, involving various characters in black. So I wouldn't read too much into it.
Yeah, I get that they can't be seen to be changing what they're doing because of the case. I just personally feel that there are other refs out there this weekend that they could have gone with and no one would have batted an eyelid. So it just seems a little bit unnecessary. But as someone pointed out, our issues at Tynecastle weren't really with Don Robertson. Like, I thought his actual on-field decisions were fine in that match. It was the whole VAR input from John Beaton that for me was the big issue.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And in that match at Tynecastle, we were awarded a penalty, which if it had gone against us, we wouldn't have been happy with. It was marginal at best. And as I said, I still think the main reason we lost that game is because we can't score penalties.
Yeah.
That's a whole issue.
Any other thoughts on this, Ryan? Anything you want to get off your chest, or do you want to talk football? Is there anything else on your mind at the moment?
I've got to be honest, I'm looking forward for the case to be over with, because it feels like it's been hanging in the dark for the past 25 days. It's been upcoming and we've been talking about it. I just want to hear one way or the other where Celtic stand in all of this and what they need to be dealing with, because then you can then prepare for that and talk about that. So I'm looking forward to a resolution coming, whether that be positive or negative. If it's been black and white, absolutely ideal, and then we can focus on the football once again, because Celtic are back in 3 days' time. Livingston away. It's the most excited I think I've been for Livingston away in a wee while, but Celtic were playing good football before the international break. Some players were getting back in good form. So I'm looking forward to seeing them play once again on Sunday. Looking forward to going to the Tony Macaroni. Never been, and it could be the first and last time for a wee while, unless Celtic get them in the cup. Not to preempt anything, but looking forward to going to the stadium and catching Celtic.
In the nicest possible way, I would lower your expectations, because it's quite a dingy old ground. It's not a bad ground, but it's not the finest ground I've ever seen. It's not the Santiago Bernabeu, put it that way. But thankfully we now win games there, Kevin. Our recent record in the last 3 matches has been really good.
Yeah. Big Ange kind of got them sorted, kind of figured out what the main problem was, which was, going back a couple of years, we were just getting bullied at the back. They were pumping long balls, full of muscle. They could read the bounce when the ball had to be picked up, and they were just getting to the ball quicker than us when it came back out. I'm looking forward to the next few weeks, and I'm looking forward to the game at Ibrox, because Celtic have performed very well there in the most adversarial of conditions. If you go back to the start of the Ange Postecoglou's 2 years in charge, in the meaningful games, by meaningful I mean those that aren't dead rubbers, Celtic have turned up and played very well. Even that first game where we were beaten 1-0 at Ibrox could have gone either way. We played well. No fans in the stadium, new manager, iffy start to the season. And then, we've gone and we've won twice. We've drawn. We've played well. And that last game, the one earlier this season, 1-0 game, you have to remind yourself how depressed or how kind of pessimistic we all were going into that.
No.
Makeshift defence, no fans, not playing well. Rangers' tails were up, and although we got, of course, especially as the game wore on in the second half, we were under pressure. I never actually felt that uncomfortable, and in that second half where Rangers had the majority of possession, we still fashioned the two best chances, as I recall. So we do well at Ibrox, and even going back to the to the 1990s when we had a 8-9 year barren stretch, we had a better record at Ibrox than we did at Parkhead in those days, and there was a few of those games where there was no fans because David Murray, had fashioned contrived reasons to keep us out. And we had some memorable victories against Rangers in what was arguably our kind of worst decade since the Second World War. So we do well at Ibrox. We've got a great record there in the last 20, 25 years. We shouldn't have any fears.
No, we shouldn't. Maestro, I knew someone would pop up right away and say, why are we jumping ahead? That game takes care of itself. It's the lesser teams we've taken our eyes off. It's just kind of difficult because that is such a huge game. And this is going to sound terrible for a guy who chats about Celtic for a living, but the Livingston game, I feel as if we've been building forward to it for that long that I'm kind of like out of actual talking points. Like I don't really know much more to actually say about the Livingston game because like you don't know what to expect from this Celtic team. I just hope that we turn up with the right attitude. Ryan, I mean, who are you most excited to see this weekend? I guess
Cal McGregor. Excited to see the captain.
Oh, you're jumping ahead there, aren't you? Assuming
because I did see a wee tweet there a couple of minutes ago. I was scrolling through it to see if there was any latest news, and there was a particular account that was saying that Jerry McCulloch has said that Cal McGregor's return is imminent. So imminent.
You're reading a Twitter account who's citing Jerry McCulloch saying that McGregor's back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Celts are here, so it's a fairly reputable. So if that is the case, then I would presume imminent is being in 3 days' time against Livingston. And you don't bench your captain, you wouldn't put him on the bench. So I would assume that he's going to start the game. Out of the players that are returning, from injuries, I think you've got to play Carter Vickers. I'm not for this. It's risky to play him on the plastic pitch. It's riskier not to play Carter Vickers in the title race. Celtic need to play Carter Vickers in every single game and as many minutes as possible from now until the end of the season. If there's any corrective surgery that needs to be done in the off-season, then so be it. But unfortunately, by hook or by crook, he's going to have to play through the pain barrier from now until the end of the season. He will be the difference between Celtic winning the league or not in that defence. He keeps everything ticking at the back, alongside Alistair Johnston, I would say, to a lesser extent. He is important as well, but Carter Vickers and Alistair Johnston, if you've got those two out of the four, and Greg Taylor as well, and then probably Scales beside him, then no problems with that whatsoever. But Cal McGregor and Carter Vickers, and maybe Hatate on the bench, bring him on for half an hour, get him back into the swing of things. But if you're going to pick between Cal McGregor and Rio Hatate in that midfield, bring the captain back, and he'll drag Celtic through it. It's important that Cal McGregor's ready for Ibrox because he's been Celtic's best player in the past 2 games against Rangers, and if he's ready for that and he's fully fit and firing, then I think everybody will be more confident than what they would be without him. As much as Celtic haven't had Carter Vickers in the last 2 wins against Rangers, they have had Cal McGregor, and he's been man of the match in both games. Yeah. So if there's one player that's got to play on... 2 players, but if there's one player in the midfield that's got to play on Sunday afternoon, it's Cal McGregor for me.
Imagine McGregor comes back, though, plays well, and Hatate comes in, maybe as a sub in the second half, and looks like the real Hatate. We know how buzzing we're going to be for Ibrox. It'll change the whole kind of dynamic. I just realised I'm asking about Ibrox again. Kevin will be getting in trouble in the live chat.
Yeah, I can see. Look. Yeah, we have played well in recent games against Livingston at the Tony Macaroni. We got that particular monkey off our back, and Livingston do look relegated. But they're a well organised team. We Martindale gets them set up, and they'll be right up for this. And your original point about the Tony Macaroni Stadium, the atmosphere. I've been there once. And, they give Celtic more or less 3/4 of the ground, and when it's full like that, we drum up a good atmosphere there.
Yeah, it's like a home game.
But it also I think it also inspires Livingston, because why wouldn't you want to kind of, you don't want to let anybody down. You want to show the biggest possible audience what you can do. And I think the atmosphere, certainly occasion I saw them, I think it was a draw actually. No, we were beaten. But those, Livingston players were crunching into every tackle, picking up every second ball, and they were inspired by the atmosphere and the din that the Celtic fans were creating. So yeah, I do take that. I do take that point that maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but you can't not when you're coming up to a season-defining double header, and where we are all wondering if 3 of our most influential players are going to be starting or have a part in it. Because as you said, Ryan, having Hatate, McGregor, Carter-Vickers all firing gives us a massive boost going into that game. Really does. But a lot will depend on to what extent they contribute against Livingston, how they show up. Well, if Hatate's going to feature at Ibrox, he will have to have had some game time against Livingston, and it can't just be the last 5-10 minutes. He either starts, which is doubtful, or he gets the last 30-35 minutes.
Yeah, we just don't know. We'll wait and see when the team comes out, Ryan.
Yeah, it'll be an ideal scenario is that the game's won and Celtic can take off. Carter-Vickers after 50, 60 minutes, he can take Cal McGregor off. After
Kyogo.
60, 65 minutes, Kyogo, yes. If you're going to play Eden and Kyogo up front, then I suppose that takes care of itself. You can just put on another midfielder or another winger, but I think it will only be one up front. But you talk about
it's a game for Eden, isn't it? It's a game for Big Ida, is it
it's
not?
An interesting one.
Instead of Kyogo?
Well, either as part of a two-man attack, or you kind of get Kyogo, you kind of soften him up by his running, just kind of undermining them a bit with half an hour of running beyond them, keeping them bewildered, and then you bring the big man on if we're just ahead by a goal or drawn or even being beaten.
The thing is, you can't really bring form into it too much because it's been 2 weeks since Celtic have played a game. If you're going form internationally, then Yang would play at right wing because he was South Korea's MVP at an under-23 championships that he played in over the past few weeks or so. I think he played in 2 out of the 3 games and he was the best player at the tournament. So, it's an interesting one. I don't think form goes into it. I think Kuhn will start in the right wing just due to his good performances and the fact that Yang has had game time internationally, whereas
travel.
Whereas Kuhn will have two weeks more training. For me, that's really exciting. The fact that he's probably had 2 weeks more training, getting more acclimatised to Scotland, you could potentially see an even further improvement because we've seen how good he looked against Livingston and St Johnstone. Mm-hmm. You would want him in that 1v1 battle with Christian Montano again, based on what happened last time in the Scottish Cup. I know that was at home, but Montano could not get near Kuhn the whole game. And he's very much a confidence player. If he beats his man one time, it looks as if he's got the beating of him the full game. I'm hoping he'll still have that confidence, and he could be a big player for Ibrox as well. It's all about making these new heroes. Kuhn could make himself a hero in these next couple of games in the title running.
It's great because all of a sudden we've got competition on the right, by from 2 players who are bang on form. Mm-hmm. Several weeks ago we were all like many others going, we're looking threadbare. The new signings aren't knitting, but Yang and Kuhn, Yang is a player. I mean, I just think he's a thoroughbred. It didn't surprise me about his contributions as with South Korea, because I think he's a cracking player, and we will see the very best of him next season and hopefully the season after. Cracking player, and I'm so glad Kuhn was turning it on because I was perhaps overcritical of him in the heat of the moment after his second and third appearances. Bailey,
to be fair, we didn't have all the facts about Kuhn as well with his dental surgery that he had, and he lost 8 kilos. So
yeah, here's things we're getting. These things are coming together on the pitch just at the right time. I know. I mean, I'll throw this one in. I was speaking to a couple of my relatives who were at this recent Celtic Foundation event, and Brendan Rodgers and John Kennedy were kind of mingling, and he said, and I quote, the two of them were the most relaxed people at this event when the subject of the double header with Rangers come up. And the message was very much, we're approaching those 2 games with absolute confidence. They were showing no, I mean, okay, you've got to show that to the fans, but he just said the two of them were just so relaxed. Nothing to fear. We've got, we've done very well there. We shouldn't be looking at these 2 games with any level of anxiety, given how we've performed both at Celtic Park, Hampden, Ibrox over the last 3 years consistently. When they mean something, we turn up.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I'm glad they're feeling like that. I hope there's also an element of knowing exactly what's at stake as well. I'm sure there will be. It's going to be mad. We start on Sunday, guys. We've nearly managed to navigate the entire international break. Tomorrow's the final morning briefing before Celtic are back, so we've almost made it, and plenty to chat about this time tomorrow. I think Tony will be back on at that stage. Just before we go, just a final shout out for this offer we've got running. 6 months of access for £1, and you get a free Kyogo Furuhashi print from renowned football artist made by Frankie thrown in as well. Thank you for your time, guys. Thank you everyone for tuning in, interacting, etc. Big day today, even bigger day on Sunday.